It looks like we're at the end of the incredible inflation we've seen in the housing market here in Spokane over the past several years. Housing prices are expected to decline by about 5% over the next 2 years as the market adjusts back down to meet the purchasing budgets of our local community of homebuyers. If you own investment property and have considered selling, now might be a great time to get the maximum return on your investment. Watch this video to find out if it makes sense for you to sell your rental property. Hey, I'm Matthias with eXp Realty here in Spokane, Washington, and today I'm excited to talk to you about when it makes sense to sell a rental property. Before we jump in, I want to let you know that you can use the links in the description below to request a no obligation cash offer for your property or to get an instant home value from the industry's top AVMs. Think Zestimate. I can also give you a comprehensive market analysis of your rental to help you decide if it makes sense to sell. Okay, now every property owner's situation is unique, but there are some common scenarios that can signal it's time to consider selling a rental. As a former landlord myself, especially post-COVID, I know that there are many reasons you may be thinking it's time to sell. Speaking of COVID, the first scenario I want to talk to you about is non-paying tenants. Nothing will inspire you to think about selling your property like non-paying tenants. I worked with my father to liquidate his portfolio of rentals as part of his retirement strategy a few years ago. He had a stroke and the rentals were becoming a source of stress and they'd appreciated pretty well, so it just made sense to sell. We had one property that had been a serious problem since acquisition, so I did the work to get it in great shape with a good payment history, and we were planning to cash out in the spring of 2020. Wah wah. So you know what happened. Half our tenants stopped paying, and I had to watch all of that hard work devolve into chaos. While we did walk away from that deal profitably overall, COVID probably cost us $150,000. Every year in Spokane is getting more difficult and expensive to evict non-paying tenants. While there are many strategies for dealing with these issues, sometimes it's time to just cash out and walk away from the hassle. Okay, my second reason is when you're an accidental landlord. Many people unintentionally end up as landlords. If a sudden move or an inheritance landed you with a property, you might be realizing it can frequently feel like a full-time job and that this is never something you intended to do long-term. Owning a rental property is a business, and if this is something you took on just to try it out, you may have found that it's a lot more work than you bargained for. Passive income means I don't have to do stuff, right? Additionally, if you own property that's located far away from where you live, you may have found it a constant hassle to find good help locally and keeping on top of issues before they arise simply because you aren't able to physically be present at the property when the need arises. Just so you know, assisting long-distance landlords is one of the things I specialize in when selling a home. The third reason would be if the property needs extensive work. If you're either close to retirement or the time when you want to liquidate the property anyway, it might not be a good idea to sink significant investment into repairs when the returns are going to take years to materialize. The demand for rental property is still quite high, and you maybe have had an asset that's been appreciating for years. So let's let the next owner see the benefit of those repair returns on their property. The next one I want to talk about is what do we do when the neighborhood's starting to deteriorate? Maybe your neighborhood has become oversaturated with rentals. Studies have shown that lower home ownership rates can affect an area negatively from everything from property values to crime rates. This statement is definitely not intended to disparage renters. Renting makes sense for many, many people, and all neighborhoods benefit when there's a healthy mix of home ownership and housing types. Having said that, if you have noticed that crime is on the rise in your area where you own property, or perhaps that your block of once really well-maintained homes are all starting to look really worse for the wear, it might be time to move on. Declining neighborhoods frequently attract problematic tenants, so you need to consider if this is still an area that you want to invest in. If you do decide to sell, one of the best things you can do for the neighborhood when cashing out is selling to a home buyer rather than an investor. All right, reason number 5, you may have maxed out your tax benefits on the property. If you're a longtime landlord, you may have maxed out some of the tax benefits of owning your rental, and it's time to trade up, trade out, or trade down. Additionally, if your property has significantly increased in value, you may want to consider doing a like-kind 1031 exchange to protect yourself from capital gains taxes. Okay, number 6 is a fun one. The best reason of all would be that you have goals and dreams to pursue that can be financed by liquidating your rental property. If you're on the path to retirement or simply want to invest in new areas now that the market has reached its peak for the near future, it may be the perfect time to cash out. Okay, so my last tip is regarding one of the goals for all investors is to buy low and sell high. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, we are at a peak in the Spokane market. While real estate will continue to appreciate in the long term, it is unlikely that we're going to see the unprecedented gains that we've seen in the past few years. Ultimately, every investor and every property is unique. The key is to determine your specific goals, both short and long term, and then ask yourself if selling the property would help you get closer to those objectives. If you'd like a market analysis of your current holdings, don't hesitate to reach out. You can also get an instant home valuation and request a cash offer using the links in the description below. Talk to you soon.